you're in the mood for some awesome apparel, we've got Coon Creek merch. It'll be available, link down below. All right, y'all, welcome back to another one. So we're gonna skin the foot out on a coyote. Now, as many of you guys have heard me say through this year, this season, I am skinning out all 4 feet on the coyotes that I catch. It's just a market that I have. You know, all these coyotes are going to be tanned, basically. I'm not selling anything to the fur market. So anyway, I'm going to try to share with you guys my process here. So anyway, what we've got is I've got this coyote here, and I want to share with you the process that I go through. It may be a little different for y'all, but this is just the best way I found. So I've got this coyote here. He's all skinned out. And what I did was I skinned him completely, and I just cut off the legs, basically, all 4 feet. So I find it easier to do this after the critter is skinned, because you really want something super solid that you can attach this to. Whether it be a rope system from your ceiling, put it in a vise, whatever. If you don't have a clamp system like this, I'm going to use this clamp system just to keep it stable for filming purposes. But if you have a rope from your ceiling and you just have a hook and a rope system like this, where you can kind of make a 3-way point to it, that also works fairly well. Like I said, I am using my opening clamp system here just for filming process, so everything stays in frame. Okay, so what I've done here is I've got this coyote and I've skinned him completely out. And you can see on the front arms here, I've just went ahead and I've cut that leg bone off, left it inside the hide. On the back legs here, after I've skinned it out, I've just left the, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 inches worth of the leg bone on, right above that ankle. And what this allows me to do is have a good starting point to be able to clamp that in. So that's our starting process. And like I said, it's really all about kind of getting to where you can get this thing still, because it's kind of tedious work. So we're going to go ahead and skin out a foot for you. Let me kind of reposition the cameras, and hopefully you guys will be able to kind of see kind of detail, you know, that I'm talking about. So as far as knives go, you can use a lot of different knives for this. My personal preference for doing this is actually using these triangle knives. I refer to them a lot as my first cut knives. It's the knife that I use to make that initial opening cut on critters. This is my first cut knife there that I have used for, this knife is, I don't know, pushing 10 years old. You can actually see, I just picked this new one up here at Hoosier Trapper Supply. By the way, if you all are interested in trying your fur handling, I actually have a fur handling package out. I'll leave a link below to that. It has all the things that you need to do this, to process your own fur if you want to, you know, home tan it, get it to the point of home tanning, or even sending it off to being tanned. So anyway, in that package, in that kit, comes one of these first cut knives. This is, like I said, the knife that I use to make my first cut, and it's also my knife that I use to deal with the ears and the front paws. You can see this is the new one that would come in your kit, and this is my old one. So I have wore that sucker down. There's probably 3/4 to an inch difference in blade. I've sharpened that sucker down over the years. So it was time for me to get a new one. I was losing that point, and that's what's so nice about these knives, is being able to kind of really get in there and critique that and fine-tune that work. So that's what we got set up. Let me kind of reposition some cameras here, and then we're going to skin out the foot of this coyote. Okay, so work with me here. This is a lot harder than what you think, to try to get everything set up where my hands still aren't in the way and everything else. So what I've done is I've got this hung up in my opening clamp. What this just keeps everything super solid. So like I said before, how I've done this is, rather than making that opening cut as you normally would, I've just come just right above where the D-pad is on the back side. This is a back foot that I'm doing here, and I've just stopped that cut, skin the critter out, and then just cut the leg off. So anyway, what we're going to do, and like I said, what happens is whenever you tan this thing out, basically this hide here will just kind of close up, and you'll end up with just the feet and the pads and the claws and everything else. I've never sewed the rest of this up. It's always been fine. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to take, and I'm going to start, I always start right at the base of the pad and finish that cut up. And like I said, you can open that up, and I've got this obviously, you know, clamped in very tight. So then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna skin down, and a lot of this can be pulled. Just like skinning, I would recommend use pulling tension as opposed to cutting. It just seems like it makes it a little better, okay? So once we've got that pad down, so once we've got that cut down, you know, basically to the top of the D-pad, then I will flip that around. To me, it's easier to find the joints from this front side. Okay, so what we've got to deal with now is basically the 4 claws of this Coyote. If you're doing the front foot, there'll be a dew claw on one side. It's just one extra joint. You'll hit it kind of up here. So now that we've got that brought down to the D-pad, now you can see here, we just want to work down those joints. Now there's a lot of different guys that'll stop at whatever joints. You don't need cutters. If you do this right, you can break all those joints off to the very last joint with just a knife. You don't need to nip them off. And to me, I find that a little better because you're getting all that bone, all that cartilage. What's on the back of these D-pads is nothing but fat and cartilage. So if you can remove as much of that as possible, I think it's only to your benefit. So to start off with, what I'm doing is basically just keeping downward tension. This is why I like to hang these two, because you can see I've got the whole weight of the pelt kind of helping me and pulling down. So I am just going to go and I am just going to work around and ring around this whole foot. And like I said, you can see here I'm using just the point of my knife, and I'm pulling pretty hard, and I'm cutting directly into the bone. So yeah, it's hard on your knife, but you know, you can see once we start getting into the toes here, you really have to watch out as far as making those cuts, because there's not a lot of fur here. If you cut too much, you just cut the whole hide off. Okay, so you can see here we've come down and we've got basically all the toes exposed. Now there's 3 joints you got to go through, but what I like to do whenever you hit this point is just stick your knife right through there and just open that up and kind of separate everything out there. Okay, so obviously your outside toes will be shorter than your inside toes, so I always go and start working on my outside first. Okay, and like I said, once you make that cut where you can really kind of get in there and kind of manipulate that around and pull, you'll see we've got 1, 2, and then we're working for our 3rd joint here basically. And that's what we want to go to. That's that last joint before the claw, if you will. And that's what we're trying to keep. So I just keep manipulating it down, and it's really easy because it's just a ball and socket joint, right? Once you hit that 3rd joint, you can see what I'm talking about. 1, 2, here's the 3rd one. Take your knife and take the point of your knife, get in there, roll that joint around, and you can just cut it right off, okay? So that's it. That's the claw right there. We've gone all the way down as far as we can. A lot of guys will stop here, but then you end up with that bone and all that cartilage in there. We don't have to deal with any of that the way I do it. So we'll come down here, like I said, take the back side of your knife, put some pressure down in there, and I will try to keep my head out of the way here of this frame, but I am just working that down as far as I can, and you'll be able to count the joints. Really pretty easy. I really want to spin around, so let me see if I can do that with the camera being here. Okay, that's better. All right, so I just working my way around, like I said, cutting everything around that bone. And the whole time I'm doing this, I'm also kind of working the middle section down, because like I said, you've got a longer bone there, you know, on the middle. But once we work that down and around, you'll see that 3rd joint just start to open up there, and it's just a ball and socket. Once you get your knife in there, boom, there you go. Pretty simple, straightforward. The back side here is the pad, this cartilage area here. So generally this is about the time that I will just take and I'll just take and slice a little of that off. That just helps that, you know, kind of cure out a little easier. All right, so for the front two toes, same process, just we've got, you know, a longer 1, 2, and then we're looking for, you know, that third joint. It's just a little further down. So we'll just keep pulling away. And like I said, if you have it hung up like I do here, you've got that whole weight of that hide pulling down. So it really does make a huge difference, you know, as far as being able to work and manipulate the hide. So we're pretty close here. You can see I've worked that hide all the way down. There I've kind of got that last roll. Still pulling it down. And then right there is that third joint. You can see that ball and socket. Get your knife underneath there. And you're not cutting anything, you're just separating that joint. Okay? Same thing with that. And there we go. So let me see if I can do this while the camera is still here. But whenever we flip this thing out and flip it back around, then there you go. You can see what we've got is a foot with all the pads, all the claws. There's no bones. That's where we stopped with our cut, is right at the top of my thumb. So that is the way that I do the feet. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and it looks cool. Like I said, don't worry about sewing any of this up here. That'll kind of shrink up and kind of look like this after it's tan, and you'll end up with the nice foot. So that's about what I do, y'all. Like I said, you can see what we end up with. Bang, bang, bang. 3 joints on each one. All right, so there you have it. It's not as hard as what you may think. Like I said, in my opinion, having that foot in a very stable, clamped, solid environment is definitely what helps. So however you can work it. Like I said, you can tie a rope to it, just whatever. The least amount that you can let that thing move around is definitely ideal. So front foot is the exact same way, only you've got that dew claw to deal with. There's one extra step, and you can pop that ball and socket just the same. So anyway, finishing off, you know, we've got this Coyote here. Now the way I generally do this is because it is a real pain to flip these after this thing has dried. So like I said, we've got to cut all the way down to the pad here. So generally what I will do is, in the drying process, I will leave this flipped normal. I will pack that full of borax and then put a paper towel in there. Because like I said, there is quite a little bit of fat and cartilage left in those pads that will need to sweat out in order to be able to take tannin quite well. So I will just put borax in there, you know, I'll dump them out, replace that paper towel. You'll see the sweat come out of it. And then whenever I tan it, I dump that tannin to it. I want to make sure that I get as much tannin in there as possible. And, you know, knock on wood, I've had awesome success doing it that way. So anyway, y'all, I hope that helped you out skinning out the foot of a coyote. It's the same with any canine, cat, anything else. It's just finding those joints, popping them out. You don't need to cut, you don't need a saw, you don't need anything. And you can see, obviously, I was trying to film for the camera, but you can do them in a hurry. You know, you can go through a whole critter in a hurry once you get good. So anyway, y'all, I hope you found that educational. If you did, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. It really does help. I cannot stress that enough, how interaction with these type of channels really pushes that algorithm, and you know, it's just going to make it better. It's going to allow me to make videos like this where I'm not having to, you know, walk on thin ice basically. So do me a favor, help me out. If you're in the mood for some awesome apparel, we've got Coon Creek merch. It'll be available, link down below. If you want a kit that has all the stuff to do this, including that nice triangle knife, check out the fur handling package that I have available through Hoosier. All right, y'all, I'm gonna finish up here. I got some other skinning left to do. Just thought I'd come on and show you guys. Had a lot of interest in that. But as always, I appreciate the view. We'll see you on the next one.